Hey, hey, hey.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
He did what?
Jackpot, baby!
Ice up, son. Ice up.
That is blasphemous.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
Before we get into this, before we get into why sports are soft, I want everybody to pull up a video of something. I want you to go on YouTube or whatever, Google, whatever. Look up early 2000s, 90s, 80s, whatever. Look up some of those really big hits that have happened in that time period. And then once you see those big hits, realize that was kind of the standard. And now, again, looking at those hits, think about what would happen to those players if that happened in today's NFL. I don't think there would be a good response. Now think about the roughing and unnecessary roughness penalties that were called last night, but all season long. The NFL has gotten incredibly soft. And I understand that player safety is very important, because it is. It is. And I understand that the NFL wants to do everything in their power to prevent CTE, a terrible, terrible thing. However, none of last night's roughing calls and unnecessary roughness and roughing the kicker and the passer and whatever, none of those calls were going to cause a concussion. None of the Grady Jarrett, Chris Jones roughing the passer calls this season, those two terrible, terrible calls, none of those calls were concussion-causing hits. So look at those calls and compare them to some non-calls this season. Exhibit A being Tua Tagovailoa. Game. He literally couldn't walk, and then in the Bengals game, he literally got knocked out. And I understand that maybe those hits weren't vicious hits or whatever, but compare those hits to Grady Jarrett and Chris Jones and some of last night's penalties. If the same officiating crew from those games were calling the Dolphins games, those guys probably would be ejected from the game. And there have been a few non-calls on Justin Fields this season. Honestly, every quarterback, but Justin Fields, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson have gotten their fair share of short end of the stick type of non-calls. And, I look at some of these calls that have been flagged and penalized, and I'm thinking, I've seen a lot more not get called. It's always, oh, you know what, Jim, I've seen a lot less called for more. A lot less, called for the penalty. But this is the opposite. I've seen a lot more not called. I've seen a lot more not called. And now it's like, now these roughing penalties and everything, it's like pass interference. It's like, oh, well, now it's up to the official. Sometimes you breathe a guy, you get flags for it. And then sometimes you obliterate a guy and you absolutely knock him out, literally, and somehow you get away with it. Not sure what that's about. And the NBA is in on this too. So let's not get too let's not get crazy here. The NBA is in on this as well. Not just from a physical standpoint, however, because sure, you can go back and say, oh, look at how physical the NBA used to be with the Celtics and Lakers rivalry in the 70s and the Bad Boy Pistons in the late 80s, early 90s, and how physical those teams were. And sure, they were very physical, and that was a different breed of basketball, and, that's not what the NBA is today, of course. But officiating is incredibly soft. I mean, Another thing I want you to pull up on YouTube or Twitter or whatever. There was, I believe it was last night. The Celtics were playing the Thunder. Maybe it was 2 days ago. I don't remember the exact day. But there was a penalty. There was a flag. Or sorry, there was a foul called on. I don't even think it was Tatum originally. It was somebody else. The foul was called on them. And out of just pure frustration, it wasn't going out after the official. He wasn't saying anything to the ref. He wasn't nothing like that. Just out of frustration that there was a foul called, he looks up at the sky again. Not even going at the official or anything. Just looking up in the abyss, and just kind of clapped his hands in frustration. And was like, man, like, you again. No way was he. He wasn't even yelling. He was just frustrated. And he got teed up for it. He got teed up for looking into the abyss and clapping in frustration. He got teed up for that. I mean, I've seen coaches, players, drop expletives towards an official. I've seen pushing and shoving. I've seen so much stuff, and that those players don't get teed up. I mean, the amount of times that LeBron has complained to the officials and yelled at them and dropped explicit words to them, and LeBron doesn't get teed up. Oh, that's right, because LeBron's their little pride and joy. Tatum didn't even look in the official's direction. He didn't even say anything to the official. He just looked up at the sky, clapped in frustration, and he was walking away from the official too, and he got teed up for it. And at first, Tatum, when he got teed up for it, he originally thought he was looking around like, wait, what happened? Like, he thought somebody else got the tee. And then when he realized it was him, I mean, it had to have been one of the more clueless looks I've ever seen on anybody's face. And rightfully so. I mean, excuse me. How is that a technical? And if I can find it real quick on Twitter, I'll retweet it. It was terrible. It was the worst technical foul I've ever seen in my life. Let me see if I can find this real quick. So I want you go on Twitter if you have Twitter right now. Not really sure why. Go on to Twitter right now at Mike's Madness MU, and look at the technical foul. So just so you realize that I'm not making this up. So I just retweeted a video from SportsCenter on Twitter. Again, at Mike's Madness MU. No apostrophe mark or anything like that. And just watch that video. Watch the technical foul that Jason Tatum was called for. Because it was unbelievable. And that's putting it lightly. It was unbelievable. So we want to talk about being soft. And this kind of stuff has happened before where there's been a technical foul and it was, excuse me, or even just a common foul where it was a terrible call and you barely touched the guy or whatever, and it was just like, a terrible call, and you're thinking to yourself, guys were getting clotheslined, 30, 40 years ago, and that was, not even a common foul. But the officials are I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's lack of knowledge on the rules. I don't know if it is, personal feelings towards players. I don't know what it is, but the officials are soft too. And sometimes you hear, people called snowflakes or whatever. The officials are snowflakes in sports, in the sports world. I mean, now I know I said about NFL, you breathe on a guy and you get a roughing the passer call. In the NBA, you literally breathe on a guy and you're going to get technical. You're going to get a technical. And just overall, for any sport, if officiating. I mean, and it's the officials. They're soft. Not only is like the rules and the players are maybe getting soft, the officials are I think probably the source of the problem. And I don't mean to harp on the officiating because that is an easy thing to go towards, and that is an easy thing to say. Oh, the officials are terrible. But let's not kid ourselves. Even in baseball, the umpires are like this. And again, maybe another video you should pull up if you want to talk about baseball is Earl Weaver. You want to look up a guy who didn't take anything off of nobody. You look up Earl Weaver on YouTube. And then earlier this season, I don't know what game it was or I don't know when exactly it was, but I recall earlier this season in baseball, Brandon Hyde, the Orioles manager, didn't even say anything. He didn't even say anything. He literally just got up off the off the step. He just went onto the field, and he got thrown out of the game. He got thrown out for walking out to the umpire to talk about the call. He got thrown out for that. And I don't know if it is, the officials don't want to get bullied, or I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're scared. I don't know what it is. But in a lot of sports, the officials are just soft. And even in hockey, a sport there that hockey kind of gets a little bit of a I think I don't want to harp too much on hockey on this because players' teeth literally fall out, and there's some bad things that can happen if you get hit the wrong way in a hockey fight. But even hockey, they don't let you fight as much as they used to. And maybe that's not a totally terrible thing, but I don't know. I don't think sports are definitely not as physical as they used to be.